Let me know if you like the lighting or not. I don't know. It's very bright. Hey guys, it's Jamie, and today we're going to be talking about assumptions. For those of you who don't know, I am trans. I am a transgender man. I'm a man who is trans. And people assume a lot when they find out you're trans, or they already have a lot of assumptions about trans people. And when you don't meet those assumptions, it's like, oh my god. Lots of surprise. This does lead to a lot of shocked responses and non-compliments or non-pliments. You know the ones where people are like, oh, you're trans? You look good though. What do I do with that? What do I do? And sometimes I feel like there is just this general reaction of utter dismay that I don't look like a foot. Anyway, without further waffling, here are the transsumptions. That was terrible. It sounded even worse when I said it out loud. Here are the assumptions, guys. Number one, that you can always tell when somebody is trans. This is for sure the number one most common assumption I have. When people find out I'm trans, or if they know I'm trans from my videos, there's always an assumption that you'd be able to tell. That you can just tell when people are trans. And it's just these consistent reactions of, you'd never be able to tell. Really? I mean, are you sure you're really trans? Because you just don't look it. FYI, yes, I'm sure. I don't think people mean anything bad by this. I actually think people mean it as a good thing. It's just that loads of people just expect there to be some kind of physical giveaway. I don't even know what that would be. I don't think people know what they're looking for. Some people say they expect it like in your eyes, or like the way you move, or just like your general appearance. Like, I have no idea. People just expect there to be a tell, a trans tell. I think the most memorable personal moment I have like this was when I was at a Pride event, and a volunteer, so like an actual professional who was themselves part of the LGBT+ community, my voice just broke during that. Sometimes when I get a bit like animated, my voice breaks, it's embarrassing. But anyway, this actual volunteer knew who I was from my videos, and they knew I was trans, and they just kept going on and mentioning, are you sure? Are you sure you don't look trans? Like, really? You look good though. Like, wow, like, good job. I can't tell. And it was just the amount that they kept going on and saying like the same type of thing over and over again. It wasn't just like once or twice, it was like 5 or 6 times in different ways throughout like a conversation, a very short conversation, very uncomfortable conversation. I don't hold a grudge, it was just a bit awkward. Number 2, that physical things about me are fake or trained in some way or have been achieved through surgery. So yes, I have had surgeries. I've had 2 surgeries related to being trans. I've got designer nips and a designer dick, basically. Yeah. But I get a lot of people assuming that things like my voice and my beard and my Adam's apple, hello, are fake, or like, you know, that my Adam's apple is like some kind of implant, or that my beard is like you know, like a hair transplant but on your beard, and that my voice is actually high but I train it to be deep. I'm not like taking the piss out of people who assume this. I can kind of get it, but like, testosterone is testosterone, and it's bloody powerful stuff. Like, holy shit, it can do a lot. So testosterone can cause your voice to break, and it can cause facial hair and your Adam's apple to become more prominent, and you know, it has pretty much the same effect whether it happens to you in your first puberty or the second time around. Number 3, that trans guys are all attracted to women, so are all straight, and therefore all had identified as lesbians at some point before they came out as trans. Trans people can have the same variety in their sexual orientations and sexual attractions as cis people. Being trans doesn't mean that your sexual orientation is special in some way or is different to cis people. It's all based on the same thing: attractions, what's your gender identity, how do they identify, your attractions, all that stuff. Trans people can be gay, straight, bi, ace, pan, whatever, etc, just like cis people. Number 4, that it's weird or confusing to find trans people attractive. I've genuinely had comments in the past where people are like, you should feel honoured, you are the first trans person I've ever found attractive. And I'm just like, I do not feel honoured in the slightest. Because people sometimes act as if it's a really like commendable, special, wonderful thing that they have been able to find a trans person attractive. Trans people are just people. Like, it's not a special thing to find a trans person attractive. I don't agree with the fetishizing of trans people, but I also don't agree with this concept that trans people are just inherently unattractive, or that it's weird to be attracted to a trans person. There's also the assumption that being attracted to a trans person can in some way affect your own sexual orientation, or that you have to identify as bisexual or pansexual to find trans people attractive, or if you do find trans people attractive, then you must be bi or pan. This is not the case. Basically, for an example, if you identify as a straight guy and then you find a trans woman attractive, you are still a straight guy. That doesn't affect your sexual orientation because that trans woman is still a woman. And therefore, as a man who is exclusively attracted to women, being attracted to a woman who happens to be trans does not affect any of that. You are still straight. And that works for like different identities. So like a straight woman attracted to a trans guy doesn't affect your sexual orientation. And finally, number 5. I like it when these lists finish on 5. I like the numbers 5 and 10. 10's a bit too long for a list. 5 is a good number for a list. Number 5 is that you owe people answers as a trans person. So it's basically like when some people have found out I'm trans, they treat me like some kind of transhuman Google. They can just like fire all these questions and I will have all the answers, and I will be happy to go as in-depth as they want answers to questions. That didn't make sense. Okay, take a minute. That I will be happy to go as in-depth in their question. How do I word that? I've never had this before. Never happened to me. Basically, some people want really in-depth answers to their questions and they just expect me to be happy to do that. I got there in the end. So I'm fine with a few questions, like if people just find out I'm trans or they meet me and they know I'm trans and they just want to understand a little bit more, I'm totally fine with like some general questions or some questions about like aspects of my personal experience and things like that. That's totally cool. I'm quite comfortable talking about it, to be honest. But when it gets incredibly personal, like genitals or sex from like relative strangers, that's when it gets a bit weird. There are people in my life where I will like talk to them about that side of things, but they are like my very close friends. So like just people that find out I'm trans and they kind of know me a little bit, it's a bit awkward to start talking about stuff like that. And then also when the questions just like keep coming and they get very, very like specific about different trans experiences, and I'm like, this is too much pressure. I can't speak for a whole community. You need to broaden your information sources. I can't do this. So yeah, lots of assumptions. I don't really find any of these particularly offensive, and this isn't a call out on you if you've done any. It's just a more like, going forward, these are maybe things to avoid with certain trans people, or don't just assume that, it's another assumption, that trans people would be comfortable with any of these occurring. I mean, if you don't know, then you don't know, you know? And it's cool to not know sometimes, and that's why there is education. This is not going anywhere, just shut up. Okay, that is everything for today, guys. Leave down below if you've got any other assumptions that you feel people have made about you because you're trans, or if you have made any assumptions about trans people in the past that weren't on this list. Leave them below. If you like this video, think about giving it a thumbs up and subscribing. And yeah, as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Much love. Bye.